Difficulty comes from the driving factors that lie underneath and are disguised as or tied to our definition of love. Letting go is actually a constant exercise that confronts our choices in many areas of our lives. Some are obvious, others are subtle or hidden. Join me as we navigate through the let goes of life. Let's grow together. Good morning, good morning. It is a great day here in the Northeast. Yes, we are in the Northeast, in the beautiful New England area. And I know some of you are saying, but it's going to rain today. Doesn't matter. It's still warm. I'm loving the Indian summer. I know it's going to go away by this weekend, but I am enjoying every minute of it. So if you're here today, make sure you say good morning to me and to the girls that are joining today. I'm so happy to be able to be here with you today. And so we are talking about letting go. It's the Letting Go series. And today we're going to be talking about letting go of mediocrity. And as you know, when you are living a substandard life, not the life that Jesus has come to give you, which is abundant life, you are living in mediocrity. And so what is mediocrity? We talked about that a little bit. And let me just get this going. Let's get this started. It's really good. So we were talking about mediocrity. And as you know, mediocrity is feeling inferior. It is feeling inferior. So here's the question to you. What is making you feel inferior? Now, you could feel really good about a certain area of your life, and then you can have another area where you're really challenged. And the last time we got together, I talked about how in Genesis it started with Eve. She started to do the comparison game, and how many of us do that all of the time, especially as women. We do that all of the time. We're constantly comparing ourselves to another woman, to another person. We think that we can never arrive, that we cannot reach that place, whatever that place is for you or for me. And I can give you a classic example. There was a time where I used to compare myself to other speakers, to other teachers, to other authors, and I had to stop doing that. Why? Because I'm unique. You are unique. What you bring to the table is what God has deposited in you as part of your uniqueness. You bring something to the table, even though you may have the same title, supposedly, like other people, you bring something completely unique to the table. We both do. And we have to remind ourselves that. Also, I don't like when we do the comparison game because, and it is a game, at least to the enemy. He likes when you compare because it makes you feel inferior. When you continue to do that, it doesn't allow you to become the person that God has designed you to be. And I believe that He had so many beautiful, beautiful plans for Eve. And yet, because she started to compare, she missed out in all of the blessings that God had for her. And I believe that happens to us as well, guys. It happens to us as well. So I want you to think about, what are the areas that makes you feel inferior? What are those areas? Really, really think about it. And there are reasons why we feel inferior. And I want to start today with illness, only because the first thing that when I started studying this that popped up for me was the man at the pool of Bethesda. And I was like, wow, I never really thought about that. And I started to read, and I want to read it with you today so that we just kind of lay the foundation so that when we start to get into more conversation about this, you can understand where I'm coming from. So here we go. Let's go to John chapter 5. And I laugh, or I chuckle inside, because this was one of my sister's favorite chapters to read when we were kids. And she would read this as part of our devotional with our parents. We had what was called family altar every single week. And it used to be, I think it was once or twice a week. And each of us had the stage at one point. And so this was like her favorite go to story. So it warms me up inside. So it says this: after this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which called five roof colonnades. In these lay multitudes of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. And one man there had been invalid for 38 years. So think about this. And I have to give you a little bit of background, because sometimes, in our Western mentality, we just don't get it. And also, this was in ancient Eastern times. In those times, if you were blind, if you were lame, if you were paralyzed, you were considered an outcast. So, because we are in the tri state area, think of New York City, where you have the homeless and they're out in the streets. This is the same thing, except that there was this one area that used to be this beautiful place of a pool, right? Which had colonnades. You can imagine it must have been really gorgeous when they used it before they started. They let it deteriorate, and the blind and the lame and the paralyzed started to live there. But before, it used to be that it was a beautiful place where people used to go to bathe, and they said it was a pagan place, and it was absolutely gorgeous, but then they didn't keep up with it. And so all of these people would go there to kind of just hang out, because they had no other place to go. Now, when you're considered an outcast, you immediately start to feel inferior. You start to feel inferior, and this is the extreme. But guys, just try to, you know think about it, and go with it with me here. There are times in certain areas of our lives where we feel this inferior, and it's for many different reasons. And in this case, this man was lame. He could not walk. He could not get around. He could not hold a job. He could not support himself. He did not have a place where he can actually bathe and remain clean. Imagine the what it did to him psychologically. How many people do we know, even on the street, that are mentally ill and they can't care for themselves? And that compounds the problem. Let's keep reading. This is verse, I believe, number 6. And when Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there for a long time. So we know he was lame for 38 years. We don't know how long he had been at the pool of Bethesda. He could have been there for, years. He said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" And this is very important, because this is something that Jesus even asks of us today. Do you want to be healed? And yes, even those areas where we are thinking in an inferior manner of ourselves or about ourselves, or we allow other people to define who we are, we need healing. A lot of times we have gone through some type of trauma. We have been spoken over by somebody, perhaps in authority, when we were younger, that we need to get that stuff out of our lives, out of our mind, out of our heart, out of our emotions. And so the Lord Jesus asks this question not only to the man that was lame, but he's asking this question to each of us today. Do you want to be healed? Here's the flip side of it. Here's the flip side of it. Look at this. Look at what it says. Then the sick man answered him, Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool. So he's looking at the physical, the tangible, what a person can do for him, what a person can do for you. Okay, into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I am going, another steps down before me. So he's also looking again at the physical, the tangible, what somebody can do for him and what he can do for himself. He's not thinking of the supernatural. He's not thinking about Jesus. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even believe anymore. And part of the problem of staying in mediocrity, in living in a substandard way, in an inferior way, not in the abundant life that Jesus has brought us, me and you, is believing a certain way. He believed a certain way. He depended on a certain way. He depended on, he had a dependency on another person helping him into the pool, which represented healing to him. Or he had the dependency of himself, of getting himself into the pool to get healing. How many of us depend on doctors? How many of us depend on ourselves? And then we are disappointed because that other person and ourselves, we are both limited. And yet God is not. And here he has the creator of the universe, the heavens and the earth, and everything that we can see, standing in front of him, reduced to man with the power of God, exuding, okay, just coming out, flowing out of him, asking him, do you want to be healed? And I had to paint you this picture so that you can see in your mind what Jesus is asking you today. And Jesus said to him, get up. It required a faith action. Take up your bed. Required another faith action and walk, which is, let's walk away from this situation. Let's walk away from this type of living. Let's walk away from this type of thinking. Let's walk away from hanging on to the past. Let's walking away from living with labels. Let's walk away, ladies, with Jesus. We have to get to that place of believing and walking with Jesus so that we continue to believe. And it says that at once the man was healed and he took up his bed and he walked. He walked. And it was all because he, at a certain point, recognized Jesus, who he was, recognized the healing power that he offered him. We get this healing power offered to us each and every single day. Can you believe that? We get this healing power inside of us, offered to us every single day. That is so awesome. So awesome. And yet we miss it. But it required action steps. It required him to shift his mindset and say, wait, this man, who is he? He's offering me to be healed. Wait, who is this man that is offering me healing? Who is offering me to change my life? Who can give me a life that has changed? And that is the question that you should really just focus and just let God just speak to your heart and to your mind these next few days until we get together. And we're going to continue unpacking this, living the way that God has offered and promised us through Jesus abundant life. I pray that this blessed you today. I know that it blessed me. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Love you guys.